Hello students, welcome to my class on operating system. I am Shravani Kundu, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Guru Nanak Institute of Technology. Today I will discuss process scheduling algorithms, the priority and round robin scheduling algorithm. After completion of this class, you will be able to solve the problem using the priority and round robin scheduling algorithm, and you also can understand on which perspective the operating system will use the priority scheduling or the round robin scheduling algorithm. Okay, so first I will discuss the priority scheduling algorithm. In priority scheduling algorithm, the basic objective is to select the process from the ready queue whose priority is high. So as you know that in our process state diagram, there is a state which is called the ready state. Now, with the ready state, a queue is associated. This queue is called ready queue. Okay. Now, the processes are stored inside the ready queue like P1, P2, P3. Three processes are stored inside the ready queue. P1 is arrived first, then P2, then P3. Now, the processes has the different priority value assigned to them. For example, the process P2 has the priority value 1, process P1 has the priority value 2, and the process P3 has the priority value 3. So this priority value indicates the priority of the different processes. So those values are called the priority value. Fine. Now different operating system can use a different priority value. For example, for some operating system, the lowest priority value is considered as the high priority. So the lowest value has the highest priority. Again, for the another set of operating system, the highest value is considered as the lowest priority. Or rather, I should say for another operating system, the same, the lowest value, it will be easy for you. Lowest value has the lowest priority. Fine. So you can see for some set of operating system, if the priority value is 1, so one value indicate the highest priority. Again, for another set of operating system, if the priority value is 1, then that one value indicate the lowest priority. That means for the we can say this is the case 1 and this is case 2. Now for if I consider the case 1, considering the case 1 for this particular example, P1 has the priority 2, P2 has the priority 1, P3 has the priority 3. So as the lowest value has the highest priority, so for this particular case, P2 will be executed first, then P1, then P3. But for the next case, that is for the case 2, as the lowest value has the lowest priority, so in this case, the P3 will be executed first, then P1, and then P2. Fine. So depending on the type of the operating system, depending on the priority value, the selection of the process will be different. Fine. So this is the basic concept of the priority scheduling algorithm. So if a set of process is stored inside the ready queue, then which process will be selected first from the ready queue for the execution? That means which process will be assigned to the running state first? That process whose priority is low. I mean priority is high, priority value is low and the priority is high. Rather, I should say that which process has the highest priority, that process will be selected from the ready queue and it will be assigned to the CPU first. Now, consider the example given over here. in this example, you can see there is a set of processes P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. And the burst times are given in terms of the milliseconds. So those are the 10 milliseconds, 1, 2, 1, 5. And the priority value is also given 3, 1, 4, 5, 2. So here we assume that the lowest value has the highest priority. So depending on the assumption, P2 has the highest priority, then the P5 has the next priority value, will get the next priority. After P5, P1 will get the priority, and after P1, P3 will get the priority, and lastly P4 will get the priority. And here we assume all processes arrived in the ready queue at the same time. So no arrival time is given, they are stored one after another inside the ready queue. So what we will do? We will draw, now to solve this scheduling algorithm, to know what is the waiting time or what is the turnaround time. What we will do? We will draw the NAT chart to observe the execution pattern of the different processes. Fine. So this is our NAT chart. We called it as our NAT chart. Fine. Now, as you know, the starting time of the times started from the block is 0. So we assume all processes arrived at the time 0. So if P1 arrived here, so definitely P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, among 5 processes, P2 will get the chance first because its priority value is low. So P2 will start its execution. And what is the burst time for the P2? The burst time for P2 is 1. So that means P2 will execute for 1 unit of time and then it will leave the CPU. Fine. So P2 will execute for 1 unit of time. We assume, we say that this unit, this is a 1 milliseconds duration. And after that, P2 will leave the CPU. So when the P2 will complete its execution, P2 is no longer present in the ready queue. What are the rest of the processes are there? P1, P3, P4, P5. And the starting time for the next slot is 1. Now among the rest of the processes, as P5 has the less priority, so P5 will guess the, P5 has the priority value 2, that means its priority is high. So P5 will get the chance. Now the burst time for the P5 is 5. So it will start 1, it will take 5 units of time and it will complete. So the next time slot will start from 6. So this time duration is 5 milliseconds. Now P5 completed its job. P5 is no longer present inside the ready queue. Now next 3 processes P1, P3, P4, whose priority value is low, P1. That means priority of P1 is high. We consider the low value, it has the highest priority. So P1 priority value for P1 is low. So P1 has the highest priority, it will get chance first. So P1 will be executed after P5 and its duration is 10 units. So it will continue its execution and it will stop after 10 units. That means the next time slot will start from 16. So this duration is 10 milliseconds. Now P1 completed his job. From the rest of the processes like P3 and P4, priority of P3 is higher compared to the priority of P4. So P3 will get chance first. It will start from 16. Its burst time is 2. So it will take 2 units of time and it will complete, and the next slot will start from 18. So P3 has completed its job. It will leave the ready queue, leave the CPU. So only one process is left inside the ready queue, that is called P4. So P4 will start its job and it will end at after 1 unit. So the next slot will start from 1. So this is 1 millisecond and this is 2 millisecond. Okay. So in this way, we will put the execution of different processes in the net chart. Now, from the net chart, we can compute the several scheduling criteria. Like, we can compute the waiting time. So first we will compute the waiting time. Now, what is the waiting time for the process P1? The waiting time for the process P1 is P1 started from the time 6. And at the beginning, I told you that all processes will arrive at the same time. That is, here we can say it is 0. So P1 started from time 6 and it arrived at time 0. So waiting time is 6 minus 0, 6 milliseconds. Similarly, the waiting time for P2 is, it started at 0 and arrived at 0, so it is 0 unit. Waiting time for P3 is, it started at 16, arrived at 0, so this is 16 milliseconds. Now, next is P4, waiting time for P4. P4 started at 18 and arrived at 0, so it is 18 milliseconds. And the last one is P5. It started at 1, arrived at 0, so 1 millisecond. So those are the different waiting time for different algorithms, different processes. Now, after getting the waiting time for different processes, we will compute the average waiting time. Okay. Now, what is the average waiting time? Average waiting time is 6 plus 0 plus 16 plus 18 plus 1 divided by number of processes 5. So if you compute this 6 plus 16, so the average waiting time will be, that is equals to it is equals to 41 divided by 5. So that will be 8.2 milliseconds. Okay. So in this way, you can compute the average waiting time for a set of processes using the priority scheduling algorithm. Fine. Now, you can see you can observe one important features for this algorithm, that here once as all the processes arrived at the same time, and once the P2 will get the chance, first it will complete the execution and leave the CPU. Then P5 will continue, it will complete its job, then leave the CPU, P1. So from the net chart, you can observe that this scheduling is the non-preemptive scheduling algorithm. Fine. This scheduling is the non-preemptive scheduling algorithm. But in reality, the scheduling algorithm, priority scheduling algorithm, is not the non-preemptive scheduling algorithm. It is a preemptive scheduling algorithm. This particular example as in this example, all processes arrived at the same time. So we cannot observe the preemptive nature of the process. So what we will do, we can consider this set of algorithm, this example, but for a different scenario. Okay. So here what we will do, we will add some arrival time. Okay. So here we are adding. Now for this set of example, here we added the arrival time 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. That means the process P1 has the P1 and P2 both processes arrived at time 0, 0. P3 arrived at time 1, P4 arrived at time 2, and P5 arrived at time 3. So if you observe at the beginning, that means at the starting of the execution, two processes P1 and P2 are present inside the ready queue because both are arrived at time 0. So P1 and P2 both processes are present inside the ready queue, and if we observe the priority of the P1 and P2, you can see that the priority of P2 is 1 and the priority of P1 is 3. So definitely P1 will get chance first. So P1 will execute first. So the starting time is 0, P1 will execute first. After 1 unit, after execution of the 1 unit of time, as the burst time of P1 is 1, P2, sorry, it will be P2, as the burst time of P2 is 1, so it will complete its execution during this 1 unit of time, and P2 will leave the CPU. Now you can observe that after this 1 unit of time in our system, two processes are present. One is P1 and another is P3, because P3 has arrived at time 1. So at this time instant, two processes are present in my system, P1, which was already arrived at time 0, and at this moment another process P3 arrived. So two processes are present in the system. Fine. Now between P1 and P3, which process will be assigned to the CPU based on the priority? Priority of P1 is 3, priority of P3 is 4. So definitely P1 will get the chance. So P1 will get the chance first. So it will execute for 1 unit of time. So next time slot will be 2. So at this time instant, what are the set of processes present in the system? P1, P3, and you can see at time 2 another process arrived, which is P4. Okay. Now observe the priority. The priority of P1 is 3, P3 is 4, and P4 is 5. Definitely P1 is small, so P1 will again continue. So you don't need to give this partition. So P1 will continue for another unit of time. So that means at the next unit time duration, that is at time 3, we will observe that what is the scenario of the system, how many processes are there. So you can see that at this time instance, the set of processes are P1, P3, P4, and at time 3, P5 already arrived. So P5. Now if you observe the priority of the process, P1 has the priority 3, P3 has the priority 4, P4 has the priority 5, and P5 has the priority 2. So definitely this 2 is smaller than all the priority value. Now so far P1 was continuing its execution, but now at this moment another process we got in the ready queue, we get it that P5 and whose priority value is 2. So we have to forcefully stop the execution of process P1, we have to send the process P1 to the ready queue. So that means if we draw the process state diagram, it will be very easy to understand. So this is my ready state. This is our running state. Fine. Now, in our ready state, what are the processes are present at this instant, at this time duration 3? P1 and P3, P4 and P5. I am drawing the instant. I am drawing this process state diagram for this time instant, for the time instant 3. And P1 is in the running state. Okay. Now, if you write down the priority of all the processes, so the priority is 4, this is 5, and this is 2, and this is 3. Now, at this instant, at the time instant 3, you can observe that the priority of P5 is less than the priority of P1. So what happened? The process P1 will be sent back to the running state, and P5 will be assigned to the P1 will be sent back to the ready state, and P5 will be assigned to the running state. So what happened? Instead of P5, P1 will be inserted over here, and P5 will be assigned to the running state. His priority is 2 and the priority of P1 is 3 now. So that means after this time in duration 3, P5 will start his execution and P1 will be sent back to the ready state or ready queue. So at this time instant, P5 will start his execution. You can see the burst time for the P5 is 5, and no other processes have arrived after that. So P5 will continue for 5 units of time, and it will leave the CPU after execution. That means after completion of the 5 units. So this is 5 milliseconds. After completion of that amount of time, it will leave the CPU. That means the time slot for the next duration is 8. Now, in the ready state, so P5 completed his execution, CPU is free, running state, no process is assigned to the running state. So 2 or 3 processes are there, P3, P4 and P1. Now, among those 3 processes, which process will be assigned to the CPU? Definitely P1, because its priority is highest compared to the P3 and P4. So P1 will be assigned to the CPU for the execution. Now P1 will continue how long? P1 already computed its 2 units of job. So that means the remaining burst time will be 8. Okay. So P1 will start at 8 and it will continue and it will leave the CPU after completion of 8 units of its burst time. So this is 8 milliseconds. So the next slot will start from 16. Now 2 processes are there, P3 and P4. P3 has the higher priority compared to P4. So P3 will get the chance for the execution. Its duration is 2 units. So it will execute for 2 units and it will leave the CPU after that. So the next slot will start from time unit 18. Now P4 is the remaining process in the system. P4 will start its job and it will continue for 1 unit of time and it will end after 1 unit. So you can see that this is a 2 milliseconds and this is 1 milliseconds. And P2 will complete. So this is 1 milliseconds and P1, this is 2 milliseconds. Fine. So this is in this scenario, depending on the arrival. So here we have to handle 2 parameters. One is arrival time, another is priority. Based on the arrival time, we have to select the processes and depending on the priority, we have to assign them to the running state and execute it. Now, for this particular example, we have to compute the waiting time. So let us compute the waiting time first. So we are computing the waiting time. Now what is the waiting time for the process P1? you can see that P1 starts from 1 where it arrived at time 0. So its waiting time is 1 minus 0. Now again P1 started over here. That means at time 8 P1 has started. So P1 ended at this time. So this is definitely this is the waiting time of the process P1. So the waiting time for the process P1 is 8 minus 3. Fine. Now next for the process P2. P2 started at 0 and arrived also at 0. So its waiting time is 0 minus 0. Next P3. P3 started at 16 but it arrived at 1. So its waiting time is 16 minus 1. So it will be 15. Now next one is P4. From the diagram you can see that P4 started at 18 and it arrived at time 2. So waiting time is 16. Fine. Now next one is P5. What is the waiting time? P5 started at 3 and it arrived at time 3. So its waiting time is 0. So we compute the waiting time for P1 is 6. This is 0, 15, 6. So our average waiting time is equals to 6 plus 0 plus 15 plus 16 plus 0 divided by 5. Fine. So in this way you have to compute the average waiting time. 6 plus 0, 0 is for P2, 15 is for P3, 16 is for P4 and P5 is 0. So it is overall 37 and divided by 5. So your average waiting time will be 7.4. So in the previous case, if you can remember, you can that the average waiting time was 8.2 milliseconds. In the previous case where all the processes has arrived, in that case the average waiting time was 2.8 milliseconds. Fine. But here we can see the average waiting time is 7.4 milliseconds. Okay. So here you can see what you can observe from the NAT chart that the processes are executed by the CPU, but if any higher priority process arrived at the ready state, in that case, immediately the execution of the lower priority process will be stopped and that process will be sent back to the ready queue and the higher priority process will be assigned to the CPU for the execution. So here you can see the execution of the process is preempted by the arrival of higher priority process. That is, the execution is interrupted. So as you know from the definition of preemptive scheduling, that if the execution of the process can be preempted, then that type of scheduling algorithm is called the preemptive scheduling algorithm. So in this case, the priority scheduling acts as the preemptive scheduling algorithm. Fine. Now the same algorithm can be behaved like the non-preemptive algorithm if it is mentioned mainly in your competitive exam. The questions come in different format. The same problem will be given, but they will ask the answer that what will be the average waiting time if the priority scheduling algorithm is executed by non-preemptive manner. So in that case, you don't need to consider the arrival time. So once a process will get the CPU, it will execute and then it will leave the CPU. Fine. So this is a different combination. So you need to know the question very carefully. You need to read the question very carefully, that what they are asking, whether they are asking for the preemptive scheduling, solution for the preemptive scheduling, whether they are asking for the non-preemptive scheduling. So different algorithms are there. First come first serve algorithms are there. Shortest of first algorithms are there. Shortest remaining time first algorithm is there. Priority scheduling algorithm is there. But all the algorithms can be executed either by preemptive manner and non-preemptive manner. So it totally depends on the situation or scenario. Fine. Now we will discuss that another important features of the problem of the priority scheduling algorithm. So basically you can say that this is the disadvantage of priority scheduling algorithm. Okay, so this is a major problem of the priority scheduling algorithm. Definitely we have to find out the solution for that problem. So what is the problem? Now consider in a ready state. If I am drawing the ready queue, so this is my ready queue. Okay. Now a process P1 arrived with the priority 10. We assume that the lowest value has the highest priority. That means small value, higher priority. Now at the same time, another process P2 arrived with the priority 4. So definitely P2 will get the chance for the execution. So P2 will be assigned to the CPU first. Okay, and P2 will be removed from the ready queue. Now while the P2 is in running state, at the same time, during that time, another process P3 arrived in the system whose priority is 5. So definitely after completion of the P2, P3 will get the chance. Fine. Now, while the P3 is executing, that means P3 is not in CPU or in the ready queue. So during the execution of the P3, another process P4 has arrived with the priority 2. Fine. So what will happen? After completion of the P3, P4 will get the chance. Similarly, during the execution of the P4, another process P5 arrived with the priority 6. So after P4, P5 will get the chance, and so on. So you can observe that the process P1 is never, as the priority of the P1 is very much low, so the P1 is never getting the chance. P1 is not getting the chance for the execution. P1 will wait. And how long it will wait? If these processes continue, fine. If after and each and every time a new process is assigned to the ready queue and whose priority is less than P1, so definitely those processes will get the chance first for the execution and P1 will not get the chance for the execution. Fine. So in this case, P1 will always wait in the waiting state in the ready queue. This type of problem, is called the indefinite blocking or starvation problem. So what is this problem? This problem is called indefinite blocking. Fine. This is called indefinite blocking or starvation. So if a process doesn't get chance for the execution for a long period of time, then the state of the process is called the process is in starvation, or we can say the process is in indefinite blocking. So this is the disadvantage of priority scheduling algorithm. Fine. So what will happen? We have to solve this starvation or indefinite blocking. How we can solve it? To solve this particular problem, what we have to do? We have to go for a solution. That solution is called the aging. Okay. This solution is called aging. Now, what is this solution? Here, along with, so this value is called the priority value. Fine. This is priority value. So here what happened, when a process is assigned to the to the ready queue, is present inside the ready queue, and if the process is suffering for the indefinite blocking or starvation, then a counter value will be, or you can say a timestamp. Okay, a timestamp or a counter will be assigned to the process. So here what will happen? We will assign some counter to the process P1. Now, this counter value will be initialized to 0. This is a solution aging. Where we will happen, what we will do? We will assign a counter or timestamp with the process which is suffering for the starvation. So this counter is initially assigned to 0. Or in the reverse way, you can assign some another timestamp. So let us say TS. TS is the timestamp. We will assign some timestamp to the counter value. With this counter is assigned to the process P1, associated with the process P1. Now, after execution of each process, the counter will be decremented by 1. So the counter value will be decremented like counter equals to counter minus 1. So the counter value will be decremented, or if it is assigned to 0, then in that case it will be incremented, gradually incremented to some other value. Now, if we consider that this timestamp is TS, the counter will be decremented by 1. And when the counter value is 0, when the counter value reaches to 0, in that case, what will happen? The priority of that process will be decreased by 1. So it will be the priority value for the process P1 will be decreased by 1, and now it will become 9. Again, the counter will assign to the timestamp value, or the counter will be assigned to the 0 value. It will be incremented by 1, and when it is reached to timestamp, so in any other way you can consider either it is 0 or either it is TS. It is as per your choice. So whatever the logic is, the counter will assign some value, and when that value will be reached after execution of each process, it will be this counter value will be incremented or decremented by 1, and when it will reach to the threshold, in that case the priority value of the process will be decremented by 1. So here the priority value is decremented from 10 to 9, and after doing so, after decrementing the priority value, again the counter will be initialized by the initial value, either the timestamp value TS or 0. If you assign with the timestamp value TS, then after execution of each iteration, each execution of each process, you have to decrease the counter value by 1. That means you have to perform this operation. Counter is equals to counter minus 1. Or if you assign this to the 0, then you have to perform that operation. Counter is equals to counter plus 1. So whatever, in both the cases you have to either decrease or increase it. Now in this case, if the counter value is equals to 0, then you have to decrease the priority value of the process P1. And in this case, if the counter value is greater than equals to TA, greater than T equals to TS, in that case also you have to decrease the priority value of the process. So in this way, the priority value will be decreased after the certain time interval, after the certain time stamp. After passing each timestamp, the priority value will be decreased by 1, and the process will getting the priority value for that process will getting decreased. That means the priority of the process will increased. And in this way, after certain time, the priority of that process will be higher compared to the other processes present in the system. So what will happen in that case? In that case, the process P1 will get the chance for the execution. So in this way, we can solve the problem of indefinite blocking or starvation. Fine. And another important thing is that it is a very genuine common question comes in your mind, may come in your mind, that if two processes present in the ready queue with the same priority, like suppose there is a process P1 with priority 2 and another process P2 with the same priority 2. So in that case, which process will be selected by the scheduler? So it depends. Now in this case, if this type of situation will occur, so in this case we have to go for the arrival time. So we have to observe the arrival time P1 and P2. Which process will be arrived first, that process will be selected by the scheduler first. And if both the processes arrived at the same time, then depending on the position of the ready queue, the process will be selected. So that is all about the priority scheduling algorithm. So the main important concept over here, the process will be scheduled to the CPU based on the priority of the process. And due to this priority scheduling, a problem will occur for the lowest priority process. That problem is called the indefinite blocking or starvation. Now, when there is a solution for the starvation, that solution is called the aging. Now, what is the solution? We will assign some counter or timestamp with that process, and after successive execution of the process, after execution of each process, the counter value will be either incremented or decremented by 1, and when the counter will reach to the threshold, then the priority of the process, priority value of the process will be decreased by 1, so that we can increase the priority of the start process. And after, and as we are doing so, after certain time, the process will get the lowest priority value or the higher priority. So the process will get chance for the execution. Fine. So this is all about the priority scheduling algorithm. So in my next class, I will discuss the round robin scheduling algorithm.